It's Meet the Writers from the Barnes & Noble studio on BN.com. I'm Steve Bertrand. They hijacked the governor of Illinois from the people who elected him, not unlike how terrorists hijack airplanes. Those are the words from Governor Rod Blagojevich in his new book, The Governor. And he joins us now. Governor, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I want to start on that December morning when you're in your house with your family and the FBI agents are outside to arrest you. Tell me about that.
Well, I was sleeping and had the alarm clock set for 6 o'clock. I had running clothes laid out, winter running clothes, because it was the beginning of winter. It was cold, and one way to help you get out to run in the dark and cold of winter psychologically is to have those running clothes out there just to get a leg up on it. Mm-hmm. And the alarm clock was set for 6 a.m. It rang, and I turned to my wife and said, hit it for another 5 minutes. And between the interval of the first alarm clock going off and the 5 minutes, the telephone rang. And I got up with some feelings of concern, because whenever you get a phone call that early in the morning, my life experience has taught me that that's generally not a good thing. Somebody you love might be sick or might have a problem. Maybe somebody that you know or love died. When you're the governor, you get calls like that. Maybe a state trooper had been killed in the line of duty. So things like that were swirling in my mind as I went to pick up the phone. And when I answered the phone, the FBI agent identified himself, and at first I thought I hadn't heard it right, and then I thought that it might even be a practical joke. I even thought about a state senator, Senator DeLeo.
Eventually the agents were in your house.
Within minutes.
In your bedroom?
Yes, they were.
And your daughter was in your bedroom as well, your 5-year-old sleeping.
Right.
It must have been a fearful time for you.
It was all happening very fast, and they were rushing us, and of course very invasive, as you can imagine. And it begs the question, something's upside down here, because why would you go to a sitting governor's home at 6 o'clock in the morning and arrest him? I'm a former prosecutor, and I know that the reasons for arrests are based on basically two things. One, is the person a risk to run away? And or second, is that person a threat to his or her community? I'm the governor of Illinois. My neighbors are safe from me. I'm not a danger or threat to anybody. And as the governor of Illinois, if someone felt that they thought I did something wrong, I'm not going to run away.
You said that Patrick Fitzgerald's tactics were straight out of the KGB, right?
Well, the book speaks for itself.
You're very strong in criticizing the guy who's going to put you on trial and prosecute you.
Well, what the government and the prosecution has done in this is still a matter of amazement to me. I'm still in disbelief. I can't believe this has happened, and I certainly can't believe it's happened the way it did. I write in the book what I intended to do with the United States Senate seat. And when the government, at a press conference while I was sitting in a lockup, proclaimed to the world in a super sensational way that they were stopping a crime spree before it happened, that wasn't just a misunderstanding or a misstatement. That was a mutilation of the truth.
I want to go back to your first day. You talked about the jogging clothes. So there you are, arrested, taken to court in jogging clothes. The hearing happens. You're let out, and you return home. And then you're back with your daughters. And I want to know what that was like.
It was meaningful because I was worried before I got home what the impact of this would be on them. The first phone call I made when I was freed and released was to my wife, of course. And I asked her, had the kids heard and how were they? And she explained what had happened during the course of the day, that she went to school and brought them home. She allowed them to go to school in the morning in spite of all of this. Luckily, they slept through it all because she wanted it to appear normal to them. But when word was getting out that their dad had been arrested, she felt it was important to get them home so she could explain to them in her way what had happened. And by the time I got home, I was relieved that to varying degrees they were okay. My older one, again, is older and can understand the gravity of what I was facing. But she was, all things considered, okay, and I told her things will be fine, and this is all part of what happens when you're the governor and in this new age of politics. My little one was so sweet because she came up to me and she said, she asked me, Daddy, were you arrested? And And I said yes. And she then handed me a card that she made by herself in school with a little help from a teacher. That was a birthday card because the next day was my birthday. And it was just so sweet and loving what she did. And both of them, it turned out, to varying degrees, are working through this.
We have kids about the same age, so
Yes.
I understand that. And I know that you will protest your innocence, but there also is a good chance that you're going to go to prison. How do you prepare for that?
Well, more than that, I would say there's a bad chance I'll go to prison, a slim chance I'll go to prison because I didn't do anything wrong.
Okay, but there's a chance you're going to prison. You must be considering that.
Well, I focus on the positive. I mean, has the thought crossed my mind? Of course, I'm human. I can't believe this has happened to me or to my family. I can't believe the injustice of it all. I can't believe the dishonesty of it all. And I can't believe, as I write in the book, whatever happened to the presumption of innocence and whatever happened to an inquiring media and the press, and when would they start asking questions that some of this stuff really doesn't add up? Why would you go to the governor's house at 6 o'clock in the morning and arrest him and sensationalize something like this? Why wouldn't you just call his lawyers and say, come on in, there's an issue? Why would you terrorize the governor's family and risk young girls and daughters being traumatized like that? Where is the media to even ask the question?
Well, the prosecutor would say because you were about to appoint someone to the Senate.
Well, I would say that there's a clear-cut difference between what I was about to do. I write in the book that my decision and direction and purpose and intent was to, first and foremost, consummate a routine political deal that would create 500,000 jobs, provide health care to 50,000 to 300,000 people who can't afford it now, and a guarantee in writing not to raise taxes on people. The government said they were stopping a crime spree before it happened. Someone is not telling the truth. I believe the truth lies in the tapes. And as I said before the Senate impeachment trial, every one of those tapes should be heard. Every one of those tapes. And I find, again, the story is filled with everything being upside down. The government, those who are made these false accusations, are the very ones who've gone to court and had a protective order, refusing to allow those tapes to be heard in public. I want those tapes heard. I'm the anti-Nixon. This is the anti-Watergate. And the accusers are the ones who don't want to have the people hear those tapes.
You write about your relationship with Barack Obama. And maybe relationship's not the right way. Almost parallel tracks or going down the tracks at the same time. And you write as if you're Icarus and he's Zeus. You became too close to the flame. As I'm reading the book, and forgive me if this is sacrilegious, but it seems to me that you might be John the Baptist and he might be Jesus Christ, right? Because you write about that a little bit, like you're just a little bit ahead and you're the guy with his head on the platter and Obama moves on. What do you think of that characterization?
Well, that's a fascinating characterization. Let me be abundantly clear. It's your characterization, not mine. If I said anything like that, they'd say I'm comparing myself to John the Baptist.
Right.
It's an interesting characterization, but no, President Obama and I kind of started out roughly the same time. I was introduced to him by a mutual friend who's been a problem for both of us.
Tony Resco.
Tony Resco. President Obama said his relationship with Tony Resco with regard to the purchase of the land and his other relationship was a bonehead move on his part. I've come to realize that my trusting him and thinking he was a friend and thinking he was an honest person was stupid.
He's a crook?
Well, a jury found him so. And, I'm sympathetic to his family and his circumstances, but that's what a jury found. But, and certainly that was a mistake on my part, as it was for the president. And we both had different kinds of last names, and were different kind of candidates winning big offices in Illinois when before neither one of us would probably be perceived as having a realistic chance to win. I mean,
he was in the crowd when you won the race for governor.
He was. It was a huge crowd that night. It was the pre-Obama crowd. So the crowds he subsequently got would make mine very small.
Governor Blagojevich, nice to talk to you. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
That's Rod Blagojevich. I'm Steve Bertrand. This is Meet the Writers from the Barnes & Noble studio on BN.com.